As you may recall, I hinted in my prefatory remarks that it was my intention to narrate these occurrences in chronological order, and that it was only in deference to the wishes of Mr. and Mrs. Nevinson and Jessie that I did not publish my bare diary notes, but decided instead to amalgamate them into this narrative form. I am a great stickler for tidiness and routine, and even at the risk of being somewhat annoying, I must once again defer touching on the matter of my theory, in the detailed form promised, until I have recorded for your benefit what Mrs. Nevinson told us the following morning, that is, on Monday, concerning her dream of the night before. She said, "Something new has come into it, though I don't know that it matters much. Everything seemed like the nights before, except that suddenly I found myself breaking off from the track and pushing my way through the jungle. The flute player seemed to have left the track and taken to the jungle, and I had to follow him. The bush was thick, but I managed to go through it somehow, and then that bony arm gripped my arm and whispered. It said this time,
8 nights, and then to join us."
And for some reason I began to smell something musky and queer near me, and I could have sworn I saw 2 greyish, furry hands reaching out for my throat. After that, I woke up. It was a significant development in the story of my bones and my flute. I asked Mrs. Nevinson, "You quite sure that the wording was altered? 8 nights and then to join us? Was that what you heard?" "Yes, those were the words," she replied. She sighed and added, "But for Christ's sake, don't start cross-examining me about it. I'm not in the mood for that kind of thing this morning, Milton." I grinned and said, "I'll try not to be a nuisance, but just a question or two all the same. About this musky smell. Was last night the first time you became aware of it?" "It must be the same smell I smell in my dreams," Jessie intervened. "A musky kind of goatish smell." "That's right," her mother said. "There's something goatish about it." "You haven't answered my question, Mrs. Nevy," I persisted. "Was last night the first time you became aware of it?" "I'm not sure, and that's quite honest. I didn't like saying it before, but I have an idea I've been smelling it for the past 2 or 3 nights, on waking up from that dream, or just before waking. It's so hard to tell. I thought it must be my imagination, but last night I was sure about it. I did smell it." "In your dream or on waking up?" I asked her. She gave me a withering look. "What are you trying to discover now? Why does it matter if it was in the dream or on waking up?" "It's extremely important," I said. She shrugged. "Well, it must have been in my dream, I suppose. It couldn't have been actually in the room, could it? Unless you want to hint that Jessie and I are so neglectful of our personal hygiene that we're beginning to smell like goats." Jessie turned red and uttered a scream of laughter, and Mr. Nevinson, who had been sucking at his pipe in a rather morose manner, slumped in a Morris chair, also began to shake with laughter. "You may think that it's a laughing matter," I frowned, "but I can assure you it's very, very serious. More serious than you imagine." It was at this point that I deemed it propitious to tell them of my theory. After their mirth had died down, I said, "Look here, sir. I've been thinking this thing over seriously, and I'll swear I've got it this time. I've hit on a theory, and I'm pretty sure it's correct." Considering, however, that this was about the 6th or 7th time within a week or 2 that I had hit on a theory, none of them gave signs of being particularly impressed by this abrupt declaration. Mr. Nevinson nodded, smiling with an abstracted air as he began to refill his pipe. His wife clicked her tongue and mumbled something about being sick of theories. Jessie hardly seemed to have heard what I said. "Let's go back to the manuscript," I said, in the manner of a judge summing up. At least I'm sure it must have sounded like that to them. In the first part of it, Minervoman speaks bitterly of the blacker ones. You remember the passage that goes, "I curse these black wretches, even as I curse the blacker ones." Well, black wretches obviously refers to the rebel slaves who murdered his wife and children. But what does he mean by the blacker ones? Mr. Neville, in his translation, used capitals. And I think capitals are justified, because I'm sure that what Minervoman meant was that these blacker ones were not human beings, but evil entities, archfiends of the nether regions. I paused here for dramatic effect, but Mr. Nevinson continued to fill his pipe unruffled, and Mrs. Nevinson had begun to tinker with a clock which she was trying to repair. She had always been good at repairing clocks. It was a hobby of hers. Jessie looked through me with an air of resigned boredom. I continued. I referred to the roaming presences, also mentioned in the first part of the manuscript, pointing out that this would indicate that the Dutchman had anticipated being in a state of unrest after death. "My theory on the matter," I went on, "is this. Minervoman used to dabble in demonology." "Good Lord, what a revelation!" exclaimed Mrs. Nevinson, interrupting. "Wait a bit," I said patiently. "We've already discussed that, I know. But what I've thought now is that he had reached a stage in his experiments that he realized that in death he would still be in touch with these devilish entities, and he would have no rest until he could get some human in the physical world to aid him in his struggle against the fiends who had enmeshed him in their influence." "What elegant language!" exclaimed Mrs. Nevinson. "But haven't we talked about all that already?" said Jessie. "Yes, I know," I said quickly, leaning forward. "But hear what I've got to say now. Suppose I tell you that Minervoman has succeeded in securing you as an instrument of aggression against the evil forces ranged against him, Mrs. Neville, and that the devil entities have taken possession of Jessie, who is to be used against you." Jessie shrieked with laughter, then said, "Oh, Milton, I can see that you hate me." Mr. Nevinson smiled, and his wife retrieved a small brass washer which had fallen to the floor, and wagged her head with a pitying ear. Ignoring their reactions, I went on. "And that isn't all. Suppose I tell you that Minervoman is leading Mrs. Neville towards where the remains he speaks of in the manuscript are buried, and that these demon entities are determined that she must not reach the spot, because they know that if we succeed in being guided to the spot, we'll carry out Minervoman's wishes, and that as a result Minervoman will be free from their influence. And suppose," I continued, trying to make my voice as dramatic as possible, "suppose I tell you that I'm almost certain that when the 8th night after last night is reached in your dream, Mrs. Neville, on that night you will find yourself at the spot where Minervoman's flute and bones are buried, and that on that night your life will belong to the evil forces which are plaguing us. Because, note this, Minervoman is no match for the evil that is pitted against him. He's struggling desperately to free himself. He's trying to get in touch with us and to make us understand his predicament. And listen to this. I believe that by accident you happened upon the right spell, Mrs. Neville." When I told Mrs. Nevinson I believed she had happened upon the right spell, she asked, "The right spell? Boy, you're talking like one of those medieval alchemists you read of in old books. Very good, I said to her. But listen to me. That Thursday night, week before the last, when you struck a match and attempted to burn the manuscript, was a lucky event for Minervuman. There's something in fire that is friendly to Minervuman and inimical to the forces opposed to him. I don't know a thing about spells and incantations and all the rest of it, and it's just sheer guesswork, of course, but that's my feeling. Fire is some sort of counteractive. I suppose it may sound funny, but it looks as if these demon things are allergic to a naked flame, and through that act of yours, Mrs. Neffy, you brought yourself, so to speak, into direct rapport with Minervuman, and automatically at the same time you became an enemy of the blacker ones. It's Minervuman who keeps guiding you night after night towards where his flute and bones are buried, and it's one of the undesirable presences which arrests you after you've proceeded for some distance along the track and whispers that warning into your ear. It's evident that they have no power so far to stop you entirely from proceeding along the track in your dream, but they do their best to intimidate you and delay your progress. And last night, what did you hear? 8 more days and then to join us. Don't you see the significance of the thing? It may sound highly fantastic and absurd, Mrs. N, but you've got to remember that we're dealing with something that's quite outside the realm of the rational and natural. These evil presences know that should you fail to accomplish the mission Minervuman intends you to, you, like Minervuman, will have fallen into their power. In other words, you will join them and become one of them, as Minervuman now is. Whether I was right or wrong, you'll soon know as I continue to tell you the story of my bones and my flute.